Rescue workers in Florida continue to search through wreckage and floodwaters left in the wake of Hurricane Ian.
Here we are, downtown Bonita, right after the storm. Underwater.
U.S. President Joe Biden says early reports suggest substantial loss of life and warns it could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida's history. One local official fears the number of dead could be in the hundreds. More than 2.5 million homes and businesses remain without power. Ian has now been downgraded to a tropical storm, but is expected to become a hurricane again this evening and make landfall once more tomorrow over the coastline of South Carolina. CBC senior correspondent Paul Hunter is in Punta Gorda, Florida, one of the regions that was hit hard by Ian. He's been assessing the damage and rescue efforts.
Yeah, just to give you a sense of the power of the storm here in Punta Gorda last night, this is a palm tree, and it was snapped at its base. The winds here were that strong. I want to give you a little bit of a tour of this part of Punta Gorda, which last night was under the eye of the hurricane. Literally, it was swirling around up there, and the result is this place is a mess. I don't know if you can see down here, the tops of all the palm trees are gone. You see another downed palm tree over there. We've seen wrought iron light standards also snapped, bent in half. Power lines are down all over the place, sometimes brought down by trees, sometimes blown down. You got power crews in already trying to bring power back to this place. 20,000 people live here. It is without power right now. We got people coming. Jason, let's get this way. It's a mess. People here anticipate it could be weeks before things get anywhere back to normal. The interesting thing is that people have been telling me the expectation when they fled last night was that surge that we hear so much about. The expectation for Punta Gorda was up to 2-3 meters worth. Didn't happen. What came was the wind, and the result is this. So it could have been a lot worse, people are telling me. They expected their entire first floors to be wiped out by water, but they survived that much. But again, the cleanup begins now as well in light of things like this. Written on the boarded up window, looters will be shot. Because of course that's another fear. There are a number of curfews in places in Florida right now because of fears of that, while people deal with the mess that Ian left behind. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Punta Gorda, Florida.
The U.S. president spoke this afternoon about the damage, the rescue efforts, and what the federal government is doing about it.
The numbers are still unclear, but we're hearing early reports of what may be substantial loss of life. And parenthetically, I should note I've spoken with the governors and the mayors and the commissioners. I've been on the phone with the governor this morning. I spoke with the commissioners and mayors, and they are worried, but every one of them are telling me what an incredible job is being done to save their cities, their towns, their counties, their ports, their bridges, etc. And in the face of serious danger, search and rescue operations got underway before dawn this morning for people stranded and who are in desperate shape. Water rescue is critical. Coast Guard deployed 16 rescue helicopters, 6 fixed-wing aircraft, and 18 rescue boats and crews. That's just one element of the many federal search and rescue teams that the pre-staged in Florida. And the governor talked about how impressed he was with what the Coast Guard is doing this morning.
And so, as we mentioned, Ian is expected to strengthen into a hurricane again and make landfall on the U.S. mainland for a second time. Jessie Uppel is a meteorologist with the Weather Network. She joins me now with a look at the storm's trajectory. I mean, Jessie, that just seems so unusual that it would pass such a large, pass through Florida and then churn up, become strengthened again, and be a hurricane again. I mean, where is Ian now and where is it headed?
Absolutely, Andrew. And let's not forget, it already made landfall in western Cuba. So this would be the third landfall, technically speaking, if it will make landfall tomorrow, which it is expected to do so. Let's take you give you a look, actually, rather, at what Hurricane Ian actually looked like on visible satellite right before landfall in Florida. A really well-defined eye. I mean, it made landfall as a Category 4, a strong Category 4. But let's contrast that with what it currently is looking like on satellite imagery. Does not have a clear, well-defined eye wall at all. We know it was downgraded to a tropical storm, so it's losing a lot of its well-defined characteristics, but that's not to be confused with how many impacts it will continue to carry along with it as it approaches coastlines like Georgia and portions of the Carolinas. These are current real-time numbers, 4 to 6 meter wave heights already being reported, and that's why we're already starting to see some alerts pop up for areas along the coast, including all of the Carolinas. Storm surge warnings, some storm surge watches also push further north across Virginia as well. And taking you through the track, I want to time out this system. Andrew, you mentioned it is expected to strengthen back up to a Category 1 hurricane. That's not great news for us. The reason why we're actually seeing this strengthen is because it's encountering very warm Gulf waters. And across the South Atlantic Basin at this time of year, those waters are incredibly warm, and that's what's fueling this storm, essentially allowing it to strengthen right before landfall. We're expecting that landfall to occur along the South Carolina border sometime around early Friday afternoon, and the rainfall is going to be one aspect of this hurricane, potentially bringing devastating impacts to coastal communities, anywhere between 100 to 400 millimeters, locally higher, and the winds are clearly another concern. Tropical force storm winds likely along the border, and that will continue to move onshore right through our Friday.
Unbelievable. All right, Jesse, thank you. Meteorologist Jesse Uppel of the Weather Network.